Hey Neil, so I looked over the Java files you sent me, and really there's just so much wrong here that the best way for us to go forward at this point is to just back up to the Zool Better project and start plugging through step by step. You really need to be very methodical as you're working through these things. So what I'm going to do is walk you through some of the first exercises that follow Zool Better and show you how to implement them, and hopefully that'll help get you going the way you need to go, and help you understand the best way that you can work with me on these things. So let's see, exercise 618 on page 219 says says implement the suggested change. Make sure that your program still works as before. So the suggested change starts on the bottom of page 218. It says, it is a good design to try to encapsulate all information about the user interface in a single class or a clearly defined set of classes. Our solution from section 6.9, for example, the showAll method in the command words class, does not follow this design rule. It would be nicer to define the command. It would be nicer to define that command words is responsible for producing but not printing the list of command words, but that the game class should decide how it is presented to the user. And then it says we can, on 219, on the top of 219, it says we can easily achieve this by changing the showAll method so that it returns a string containing all command words instead of printing them out directly. We should probably rename it getCommandList when we make this change. This string can then be printed in the printHelp method in game. Note that this does not gain us anything right now, but we might profit from the improved design in the future. Okay, so let's unpack this a little bit. So basically what they're saying is it's better design to have one class or one well-defined set of classes. But in our project, we want it to be one class that does all the printing, that actually does the calls to system.out. Okay? So to do that, what we need to make a change, because right now in showAll, it's in what, command words, right? In command words, we have the showAll statement that's doing this system.out stuff. Okay? And so we want to change it so that instead of doing the printing here, this is going to produce the message as a string, so that that string can then be printed out in our game class. Okay, so so what we're going to want then, and also they make the suggestion that we use, what did they say? Oh, that we rename it getCommandList. Okay, so what do we want to do? Well, we want to, what I usually do when I make changes is I could directly change this method, but what I like to do is I'm gonna copy it and paste in a copy, and then I'm going to make my changes here since I need to rename this method and everything. And then when I'm comfortable with what I have, then I'll get rid of this one. Okay, so I want to change this method so that it produces well, there are a couple of things I want to do. One thing is I want to rename it get command list. Okay, because that's what they asked for in the section right before the question. It says we should probably rename it get command list. And also we want to change the method so that it returns a string. So for it to return so the name of the method now is get command list. To return a string, we need to say in the header, in the method signature here, that we're going to return a string, and then we're going to have to actually somewhere return a string. So I'll say return. Let's say what do I want to call it? Return result string. Let's say. Okay. So I'm going to create this string. Now, this string, so let's see what happens right now when I hit compile. Okay, it says right here, cannot find symbol, variable result string. Okay, so when you see an error like this, and one thing you can do when you see errors also is click the question mark. Okay, see how it says cannot find symbol, variable result string. You are using a symbol here, a name for a variable, a method, or a class that has not been declared in any visible scope. So one scope might be the scope of this method. So you could define a variable inside this method called result string. Another scope would be the scope of the whole class. So you could have an instance variable named result string. Okay, it says check the spelling of the name. Did you mistype it? Sometimes you might have declared it, but you spelled it a little bit differently, and that's why it's not recognized. Or did you forget to declare it? Or maybe you did declare it, but it's not visible from here. So if I declared result string, like say inside the body of this method, that doesn't do me any good. Okay, so like I said, I could declare a private string result string here in the class as an instance variable, and that compiles without any errors because now result string is defined. However, good design says that you should really keep your variables at the smallest possible scope, or the smallest necessary scope, right? So we really don't need a result string instance variable. What we need is a result string in here that we can pass back with our get command list. Okay. Or yeah, maybe a better name would be command list, right? Or with a capital L. Okay, and then we'll compile that. Oh, did I? Okay, so now I have a message that says variable command list might not have been initialized. So let's look at that. It says you are using a local variable that is not guaranteed to be initialized before it is used here. If in doubt, initialize it at its declaration. So if you don't give an initial value to your string, there's no guarantee really about what its value might be. Okay, so there are different things you could initialize it to, like we could initialize it to null. That would work. Okay, but what we want to do in here is we want to build up a string using all the valid commands. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to start with an empty string, and then we're going to add on to that empty string. Okay, and that's going to give us eventually our entire list here. Okay, so let's look through here and make sure we recognize what's going on here. So we go into this for loop. This is for string command colon valid commands. Well, valid commands is right here. This is our array of valid commands. We have go, quit, and help. So what we're doing is looping through those commands. We're looking at those one at a time. We're pulling out those strings one at a time from valid commands, and each time through the loop we're loading it into the string command. Okay, so now what we want to do, though, remember what we're trying to do is build up this command list that we're going to return instead of printing out. So we're not going to print anything out at this point. What we're going to do is we're going to say command list, and we're going to say plus equals because we're adding on to the command list, and so we don't need this parentheses anymore. So we're adding a command and a space onto this string command list. Okay, and now when we're done, we're not doing any printing out. So all the printing is going to be handled in the game class, and so now we're all done. Okay, compile. Now, one thing you might want to do early on is just test this out, because if we could just create this class, it's going to have these valid commands, right? So we should be able to say get command list and get that string. So let's try that. So if we try compiling the whole thing, and then I'll say new command words and just create a command words object in here and say, now if I say show all, okay, that prints them to the screen. But what I want is I want a string returned to me. So if I try my get command list method here, if I say get command list, yes, it returns a string that says go, quit, help. Okay, so that's what I wanted. Now, actually, now that I'm done, I can take out this show all command here. Don't need that anymore. I'm getting rid of that. Now that could get me in trouble someplace else because it's being called someplace else, but for now. And also, if you, I don't know if show commands is in here or not. Let me see. Because I'm using the, yeah, and there's a show commands here, so we can get rid of this guy. Oh, the thing is, though, what we're going to need is we're going to need this show commands at some point. So let's see, where is this? Actually, you know what? Let me back up. Because you want to I'm just gonna put a dummy show all back, because really now it's really important for us to see where just putting some dumb stuff in here. We want to see, where does this get called, right? So one way to check and see where show all gets called is to, oops, I got to recompile. And I'm missing a return statement. Oh, this was a void. So one way to check that is to go back here and put in a breakpoint. So I'm clicking right here on the stop sign. And you notice I have all these line numbers. If you don't see the line numbers in your BlueJ, what you can do is go to Preferences, and with this Editor tab clicked, make sure that Display Line Numbers is checked. And then you'll be able to see the line numbers. And you can just click on a line number, and it'll stick a breakpoint in there. Some places you can't put a breakpoint, like on a signature line, I couldn't put a breakpoint there, or where that brace is, but I could put one here. So it'll just beep at you and say, cannot set a breakpoint if you can't set a breakpoint there. But if it's an executable line, you can set a breakpoint. So I'm setting a breakpoint at show all because I want to see where that gets called. So if I say compile and I make a new game, I say play, say go south, we're in a computing lab. Oh, it's in help, isn't it? Where that gets printed out. If I say help, yeah, there we go. So when I say help, we try to print out everything, okay? Now, what this does, this is the debugger, and this actually will show you the sequence of calls that it took to get to show all. So I could say, so if I say process command in game calls print help, and then in print help we call parser.show commands, and then in parser we call show all on this commands object. So see this commands thing. Now notice it's not declared in the scope of this method, so commands has to be declared up here. Okay, so it's an instance variable, and it's a command words object. Okay, so what that means is that the show all method of a command words object is the thing that's getting called, and that's how we end up at show all here. So the reason this is important is that now we know where else we need to make changes. If we're going to get rid of command word show all, then we better do something about this method in parser and something about this method in game. So we have a couple of places. Now there might be more, but this is one way to trace through and find those problems before you are getting all these compiler errors and things like that. So, if you do your changes and you get into trouble somewhere with a compile, or it's not getting somewhere or something like that, this is a way to trace back. So it's a good idea actually I would hang on to these methods like show commands and all that until after you've made your changes, so you know that you're okay. So we already did our change to command words. We made this get command list method, but we need to set things up so that we end up calling get command list instead of show all, and that we do our actual printing right here in the print help in the game class. Okay, because we want to push all our printlns up into the game class. So what that means then is that we need to, because like we said, this is a parser object, we need to go ahead and make a change in the parser class. So what I'm going to do, I have a good idea of where I need to make my changes now. I need to make my change in parser and in game. So I'm going to go ahead and terminate my debugger. And let's see, parser. So in parser, I'm going to want a, basically, so notice in parser I had show commands, and then I called show all on the command words. Here I have get command list. I could write a get command list function in parser. Okay. So let's see here. And actually this comment belongs with show all. And this should be something like maybe produce a string with all valid commands. Something like that, right? And we're also returning a string, so we can return a string with valid commands. Okay, because that's what it returns. All right, so now we need to look at parser and we need to look at game. So here, again, we can make a command list. I'm just going to copy the start of the method because it's not going to have the same body. So here's that. And now I'm going to, I need to return something, right? Now, see, notice that in show commands, I just had a one-line call here. And that's because we're getting access to command words by way of parser. So game, notice game does not have any arrows going straight to command words. Game does not directly have a reference to a command word. But game does have a reference to a parser, which in turn has a reference to a command word. Okay? Game, let's see, so game has this parser variable in here that links to a parser object, and parser has a commands reference to a command words object. Okay, so basically we're creating this method just like we did with show commands, this command show all. We're creating this method as a way so that game can ask parser to ask command words to get the command list. So the way we do that is we say commands get command list. Okay, so we're returning that. And notice with these semicolons, you want to have a semicolon on every line that's in one of these like white rectangles, unless it's a comment or something. It should end, if it's an executable line, in a in a white rectangle, it should have a semicolon after it. Okay, so now we have this get command list guy that compiles, and notice every step of the way I'm checking to make sure these things compile. Okay, if you make one change and it doesn't compile, then you work and track it down until you figure out that one before you move on. Okay, you do it and you make sure it compiles and you test things out. Okay, so actually we can test this out. Can we make a, yeah, so parser just has a constructor with no parameters. We can go ahead and test out now the parser. So let's make a new parser, and then let's do our get command list from there. Again, the show commands. Now it just says show something because I changed the method in command words. Remember, I did this just show something, but the command list does get the right information here. So remember, we tested out command list on a command words object. Now we're testing on a parser object this get command list that calls the command words method. So we get go, quit, help. So we know that works. Okay, so we got get command list working in command words. We got get command list working in parser. Now in game, what do we need to do? Well, let's see. We had that. Remember, we figured out that the show all, or the show commands in print help is the one that ultimately caused the show all to happen, because we called in parser, we called show commands, and then we used the commands reference to that command words object to do the show all. Okay, so let's go here. So now what we want to do is, instead of show commands here, we're doing our system.out.println, and we want to ask the parser to get the command list. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of this call. Okay, make sure that this compiles. So my argument, now notice your argument to println, you can either have no arguments or a string. Okay, and remember that get command list returns a string. So parser here, get command list returns a string. So it's going to return that string. Ultimately, it's going to return the string that gets built here. Okay. So in fact, why don't we set a breakpoint right here and run the game. And let's type help. Let's see what happens. Okay, so our debugger is telling us that we got to print help in game, which is what we expect because we typed in help. I'm going to use the step into button, which will help us look deeper into what we're doing here. So we stepped into the call to get command list. Okay, so we were in print help, right? Then we called get command list on the parser object that we have stored in this parser variable. Okay, so we're here now. And then we can step into this one. And now we're looking at get command list in the command words method. Okay, and I'm just going to use the regular old step button to step over these. So we start out with command list being initialized to an empty string, and now we're going to loop through our valid commands. We can actually, you can double click on this and it'll show you what's in there. But now we're going to loop through and build up our command list. Okay. So the first time through, because this string has go, quit, help in it, the first time through we load the word go from the list of valid commands into our variable command. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is to add that command, the go, plus a blank line to our string command list. So let's look right here, see where that's command list. That's going to grow because we're adding in the go and the space here. So see, now it has go and a space. And now we're going to go, we're looping through still because we still have more words left. The next word is quit. Okay, so we saw it was go, quit, and then help. So the next word is quit. Now that's going to get added on. We have this plus equals, so it's going to, now we started with the string, we are, at this point our string is go space. When we add in, then we're going to add quit space to it. So let's see. Okay, so now it says go space, quit space. All right, and then the next step in we do help. So now we have go, quit, help, and that's our list. And now we're done because there were only three. There were three objects in the collection: go, quit, and help. So we're going to drop out of the for loop, and we're going to return this command list. And now this will return what just got returned by commands.get command list. Okay, so we'll go back up. We'll go to print help, and so now we're printing that command out. And we might be. I'm just gonna. I got rid of the breakpoint. I'm just gonna hit continue. Keep going and see if we can see our. Yeah, right here. Your command words are go, quit, help. So it did what we wanted. So we have one more step left, which is really to clean things up and make sure that. And even in this step, what I would do before I would erase this, I would comment it out and make sure that I don't need it. So one thing you'll notice, I can compile. Oh, you can't compile while the virtual machine's running, so I'm going to reset the virtual machine. So one thing you'll notice right away is that, oh, we did have a reference to that show all right here in parser. Remember that we used that before, but what I'm going to do is comment that one out as well, because hopefully we got rid of any calls to show command as well. So compile that. Let's see if the whole thing compiles. Yeah, so it looks like then the only references to the only reference to show all from command words was the one in parser right here, and the only reference to show command in parser was the one we had from the game class that we got rid of. We replaced it with this get command list business. So we can now completely cut that. And in parser, we can completely get rid of this. And now we're good. So the one thing that we do want to do, again, always, whenever you make changes, even like change like that, where you're just taking stuff out, you want to go ahead and make sure that it's working. So let's do help. Your command words are go quit help. That's what we wanted.